A long leg of a screenwriter's journey on day 185. 28 minutes and 30 seconds of guaranteed brilliant observations on what may or may not be a brilliant script. All right, let's see what is up today. All right, so we left them off when they are... Where are they? They're out in the field. I don't think they're two at the creek. Okay, so Holly and Hogan. See, I'm just thinking out loud here. Not the first time I've thought, but the first time I've thought out loud today. How big of a hurry would they be in? Well, Hogan wouldn't, because he's not totally invested in this, in as far as he doesn't know the kids and he's just met them, and he obviously has a little interest perhaps in Holly, but is that enough to make him go do something crazy? Probably not. So Holly has been given this clue by Rachel that they passed this place called Ray's Automotive, and so she is assuming if they can find it, maybe they can find the others. I'm just thinking through the logic of that, because obviously I've written since then. I'm about 5 weeks and a hair in front of that. And I don't know at what point. It's so funny to think back, because all the writing days blur together, of at what point I made changes and what point I didn't, and what I've left the same and all that. But obviously I'm cutting out a bunch of stuff there that I didn't work on. And if this seems like it's just drifting all over the map, guilty as charged, Your Honor. I go back to that whole thing of outlining it. And on the one hand, outlining will give you, it won't give you structure, but it will give you guidelines or guideposts, or it'll give you something to stay inside. But at the same time, does that limit you? Because if and when you have a good idea that goes outside those guideposts and you start making changes, does your whole thing crumble? So in other words, if you're building a skyscraper and you have made your blueprints, and so you say, okay, I'm going to make it exactly like this, your blueprints being your outline or your index cards or something. And so you start building it with your typing, and you're typing, and you write, and you're up to page 20, which is, let's say, one floor for every page. So this is going to be 110 story skyscraper. And then you get up to the 58th floor, for example, which is what page I'm on right now. And then you say, you know what? I need an extra bedroom, or I need an office, corner office, or I need to put one more elevator on here. So you type it in, one more elevator or one more whatever. And then you look down and you see your foundation can't support it, or it wasn't designed to support it. So it starts cracking and you go, oh my gosh, I need to not do that because I've constricted myself. You can see how that relates. This is probably my excuse for not doing it, but if you have these super rigid ideas, unless it's totally brilliant, which on rare occasions it might be in an outline, then you end up writing yourself into a box, and it might be a nice, tidy, neat little screenplay, but will it be brilliant? Because that's what it takes. Maybe it will be, but I'm saying probably not. So my excuse is, doing it this way, I have got more latitude, perhaps. And obviously in a script, it's a lot easier to go back and make a change on page 1 than it is to unbuild your skyscraper or have to do foundational work after it's 10 or 20 or 57 or 58 stories high. But still, once you do make that change early on, most likely you're going to have to keep changing it, which again is a lot easier than the olden days of typewriting, which I've spoken about at length, which I guess that is definitely an argument for doing more outlining and index carding and however you choose to do it. But I haven't, and so I'm stuck with it. All right. Okay, plural. So now I've missed a couple pages of writing, which is probably not a problem. That was Rachel. Sounds like they're okay. So can you get here? So at this point, Paul has, excuse me, no more yawns. It's not even close to 10 o'clock. I'm just sitting here thinking, is this a total waste of time? Perish the thought by my sheer, no, I'm not going to say that. As for now. So at this point, Holly still thinks, for good reason, that Rachel was kidnapped along with the kids. They're not kids anymore. They're 18 and 21. And Holly is enlisting Paul's help to come and see what he can do. The problem is, A, he's 3 hours away. B, he has no immediate access to a jet because he's either retired or semi-retired or something, and he's not just going to charter a plane in that short a period of time. And C, does he really have the inclination to do so? What's he going to do when he gets there? So as I was working on this and thinking about that, keeping in mind the whole mentor thing, that's kind of his role, I'm like, well, would he really do this, or could I switch things around? Well, I better not say that yet because I may have not made those changes to the script. I should probably stick with what I'm, what does that, stay on the horse you rode in on or something like that? Or stick with the girl you came to the dance with or something. I watched West Side Story last night, the new Steven Spielberg version. Great production value, lovely sets, design, set design, cinematography. I mean, obviously very slickly done. Singing was good. Dancing was fine. It just seemed like it went on a while. I hadn't seen the movie or the play in a long time, and it is sort of oddly structured how they have the big fight and then whoever gets killed, I won't give it away in case you haven't seen it. And then there's a good 30 or 40 minutes, which I guess is maybe Act 3. It's just, I don't know. It wasn't bad. I just can't imagine he thought it would have made money, which it certainly did not, as far as I can tell. So Paul is saying, well, yeah, I could come, but why don't you call your office and get a bunch of people up there? And now Holly has got to come clean to the fact that she is sort of doing this on the sly, on the DL, as the hipsters say. So I'm kind of working through this and thinking to myself, as I said, would Paul really go out on a limb and do this? You know, would it hurt him professionally? It certainly wouldn't help him professionally since he's retired, if I have indeed established that. What is the upside for him other than helping out Holly? I don't know. That's kind of what's going through my mind here, because I'm wondering, you know, if he's going to come out and then get killed, aka Obi-Wan Kenobi or any number of people who play the mentor figure, he wouldn't, just logistically and timeline wise, if he's not going to be there till after, the soonest he's going to be there is after Salerno has arrived. And unless he's going to die in a final shootout or confrontation or something, which he certainly could, But traditionally, as we know, that does not happen in late in the movie. I mean, it would be halfway through Act 3, where it should happen about halfway through the second part of Act 2. So if this is going to be a 110-page script, give or take, and the midpoint is, say, 54, 55, right after that is bad guys close in, and then all is lost. So it's going to be 70, maybe 75 at the latest. So I don't know that he could get there in time unless this completely changed. So I've been diddling around on that dialogue for a while. So what I'm thinking is, is there another way that we could accomplish this all is lost? Because I think I finally got to it in that previous version that I've completely redone, when Paul told Holly that she wasn't passed over for any promotions. She never got any, and that was sort of her all is lost. And she got shot and wounded, of course. So that realization was sort of her all is lost, and whether that was a big enough one, I won't speculate on, because it's dead and buried pretty much. Although I do have that version of the script, since I resave them every day. But so what I'm thinking out loud as I write this, and as I commentate on it 5 weeks later, would it be possible for him, by staying there and basically telling her, hey, you screwed the pooch on this, I'm not going to help you, he hangs up. But it's really, unfortunately, it's too soon for that all is lost moment. So you could say, the bad guys close in is a nebulous kind of thing. It's not literally all the time. It's just bad things sort of pile on. So one of those, and maybe the first one, after the midpoint, is Paul saying, I'm not going to come with you if I decide to go that route. The other route, of course, is he gets on the plane, but he doesn't get there in time, which is, I don't know how well that would play out. He just spends the rest of the movie on the jet because it lands at the wrong airport or something. So now she's justifying why she not only hasn't told people, but doesn't have time or really the inclination to tell them. And I think I've kind of run this scenario by the U.S. or the deputy U.S. Marshal that I've been in contact with, to say, how would this play out if the Holly person does not tell anyone? Why wouldn't she? What would the ramifications be? And it's not necessarily a fireable offense, because she's not on a case. She's doing this on her own time. Everything she's been doing with Lexi has been on her own, and she, other than Katina, she hasn't really talked about it much, and I don't know that there's any reason that Katina would have blabbed to any of the people at the marshal's place or her colleagues or whatever. So she's doing this on her own. So she's really not breaking any rules. She's just going against sort of a best or better judgment. But in her mind, it's been worth it because she's been able to kind of be the role model to Lexi all these years, and really looking out for her and trying to make her something, as opposed to what Paul said early on, is that, you could kind of nudge 100 people down the right path, or you could walk the path with one of them. Ooh, that's kind of like a ancient Chinese proverb, but not Chinese. It could be an American proverb. You can either nudge 100 people down what you think is the right path, or walk the whole path with one of them. Ooh, how do you like that? I'm going to copyright that. Probably can't. All right, let's see. I'll check a map. Oh my gosh, there's still every minute I spend. So, I mean, you pretty much know when it takes you many, 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 many minutes, meaning 45 minutes to write a page and a half, that something is not working right. And then I'm sure we've all had the experience where you just start a scene and just next thing you know, it's 2 pages and it's just like it only took you 5 or 6 minutes and it's just like, oh my gosh, why can't I write like that all the time? Unfortunately, sometimes you go back and you go, ooh, not as good as I thought. So no guarantees. Broken Bow, 45 minutes away. I'll take a map, 900 miles, 3 hours. Going in their air. So this is Paul basically not agreeing per se, but Holly conscrewing it and sort of tricking him / not really pressuring him, but kind of expecting that he is going to help her out. So, I mean, it's not bad. It could work. Leave me a comment after you subscribe and ring that notification bell. I always forget to that. And give me a like. I don't think I've got any yet. I don't have any likes. Thank you. My acting career is really going to take off after that. It's way by car. So they're having this conversation. It's funny. I was just literally am writing on March 8th, which is the current day, and I literally I wrote a little I wrote a little this morning before work, and then I got home, had dinner, cleaned up dinner, and then I just started writing like 10 minutes ago, and I paused because I got to a spot that I was like, oh my gosh, I don't like this. And so now I'm coming back to the script circa January 29th, and I'm just thinking, what have I got myself into? Someone on Facebook is basically said, you've been wasting your life for a half a year writing this script. Little do they know that it's 3/4 of a year. But no, I went back to make a change. I won't get into it because that'll take away from what I'm doing on January 29th. So this is past the halfway mark. Bad guys close in, and are the bad guys closing in? Paul is not a bad guy as far as we know. The bad guys, Ace and Clyde, ostensibly have closed in that they've taken Lexi and Jake. But really, the bad guys close in can be literal, it can be metaphoric. And in this case, it's probably going to be more metaphoric because they've already got her. And I guess it's sort of like the noose is tightening a little bit. Maybe I could call it that, because Rachel's intentions are still a little muddled maybe. And Holly is just caught up in the logistics of how she's going to find her and rescue her. And that really still needs working through as I think it. So once again, I'm not speaking directly about what I'm writing. I'm just musing more than anything else. Confusing musing. So, yeah, we'll see how that goes. And then, of course, they got to go back to the creek and find... Well, they're not going to go back to the creek necessarily. They're going to go to where Hogan thinks the helicopter was. Or not. I can't even remember this version. I can't believe I wrote that line. Oh, a nod to The Office, obviously. Yeah, so a nod to Jaws. Mr. Original Dialogue, thank you very much. And Abby's response is not something that she would say, probably. That's probably more like what she would say, unless I erase it and put something else. So they are going back to the creek to get them before they go to see where the helicopter um, took off. And so Luke is still worried about his fishing because he's finally gotten on the line. And then it gets off the line and he realizes, he's going to be mad at them, but he's going to realize pretty quick that something is amiss. But this needs to be chop, 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 cut down. I watched Super 8 last night, the J.J. Abrams movie from, 10 years ago? Ish. Gosh, I should look and see. It's probably more than that. It was, it's okay visually. It holds up very well. I was never a huge fan of the story once I got into the underground and found the monster, which was kind of a typical alien monster. It's amazing how, I wonder if Ridley Scott or the writer or the creator of Alien gets a royalty for all those creatures. It's just amazing that they all seem to they're all related. Maybe they all came from the same planet and they belong to the same general family of aliens. You just think of all the movies and how, not exactly identical, but how relatively similar they are. Okay. So they find out, they sense something's wrong. Luke sort of speaks first. And then Holly's line on 62 there, we're pretty certain someone's taken them. It's surprising how hard it was to really come up with it, because she wouldn't necessarily say kidnapped. Does she want to really scare them, freak them out? Does she want to give them false hope, pacify them? What is she trying to accomplish? And that comes back to that old adage that every line of dialogue has to have meaning, has to advance the plot or reveal character, etc., etc. You mean kidnap. So that's when Holly really, that's when Abby really gets it. So, what am I doing there? I don't know where I came up with this. I don't know. I don't know what I guess I'm laying out my next thing that I want to write. Next scenes. Her testimony. Her loneliness. Oh, I think I'm just writing kind of what has happened to Rachel over the past years. Both of them. Going to see you, don't even. Yeah, I'm just reading along here on my semi-virgin writing. Yeah, I don't know. Not really loving all of this dialogue. It just feels like, just too much talking, talk. And then I'm worried, you don't have enough story if you start chopping out all this dialogue. And then you consider some movies that are so simple, and I don't even know how long their scripts for them would be. It'd be interesting to find out. Something like, for instance, A Quiet Place, or I don't know, choose your thriller with not much talking in it. Yeah, his line, if your Jeep's unlocked, I'll start packing. I don't know if that would land, if that would be like too on the nose, or conversely, what's he talking about? Would he really take the liberty to say that? Would Holly know what he's talking about? So then, I motivate her line of dialogue, packing what? Or conversely, her line motivates the cut when we see the guns and the rifles and all that stuff. Guns are rifles, I guess. And then, so they're loading up the back of her Jeep with guns. Would they really do that? I mean, I'm thinking of that, and I'm not 100% sure. That line of Holly's 30 rounds each demonstrates that she knows how much ammo a Colt M4 takes or can hold, or a clip, or whatever they are. I must admit, I'm not a huge gun guy, but I did look those up, so thank you very much. But I don't know, the whole getting all the ammo, that's obviously a holdover from the previous way back version where they had the big almost shootout. But we never established that Holly was carrying to begin with when she arrived. And you would assume that if she was, wonder if she would be. And I'm gonna email the deputy U.S. Marshal and ask her about that, if it's typical for someone in her position to carry a weapon. Because if she did, then Rachel's goons could take it from her, and it could come into play later. It could be Holly's gun that Rachel wields, so to speak, and shoots somebody, maybe. I literally just thought of that. Sort of like those phones when Lexi and Jake wake up. Will they still have their phones? How soon will they realize they don't, etc.? So I'm gonna as soon as I get done with this day's commentary, I'm gonna email my inside source and see what she has to say about that. Interesting. My timer's off because I stopped halfway through, and I'm doing this part of the voiceover the second day. But I believe my time for today is nearing its end, so I will be ready for a quick and hard stop, as I'm sure you will. I literally can't imagine anyone is listening to this unless this script is famous. Thank you very much. There we go. See ya.